Warning: the following video contains explicit language which may be offensive to some viewers or inappropriate for children. The content within this video is intended for mature audiences only.
Are you ready? Hey everybody, it's Jeff. So, we just went through some heavy winds and rains here yesterday. And boy, I'll tell you, lost the power here. It came back late last night, but the internet's still out, so as I'm recording this I have no internet, but I'm sure it'll be back before long anyway, and then I'll be able to upload this video. But yeah, the power, somewhere the power got cut, and it took them from, hey, stop that. It took them from about 10:30 or 10:40 in the morning till about 9 o'clock that night, last night, for the power to come back. And so yeah, I think that was probably one of the longest power outages we had here this year. Okay, I think because earlier this winter, I mean in January, we had a power outage here, but I don't think it went that long. Will you quit messing with that? Stop digging. Yes, stop digging. No more digging. Cat. So yeah, we had that, but you know, with me, even though I don't have the internet, I still have data on on the phone, cellular data, which gives you some access to the internet, but not a lot, where you can download videos and upload videos. It gives you just enough so you might be able to collect emails or watch something on YouTube. Okay, that's about all you're going to get with it. Okay, so I'm not completely cut out of the internet, but that's pretty much what I've been using here today. And I could go to some Wi-Fi hotspot and use that, but then it's an unsecured connection, and most people aren't using the high-speed internet that I use here, and I still wouldn't be able to upload the videos, so so I'm basically gotta wait. I have to wait, but at least I got power. That's important, is more than anything else, is power, because without that, I can't cook, I can't do anything. They don't have any backups for renters. When they lose the power, you're at the mercy of what they got, and the landlord isn't going to waste money on setting you up with a generator or something like that, because they're afraid that that's going to ruin the apartment if they let them have access to that. So I don't know. I mean, is there any landlord out there that would even do something for the tenants, where they give them some sort of an emergency backup in case the power goes out? That's why I hope that in the next 10 years or so, people will find a way to have a backup. Solar power, for instance, or something. That way, if they do lose the power, the solar power isn't going to hurt anything, and they can use it, to power something like a stove or something like that, to get it so you can cook something. or even just to run your laptop for a short time or something. You know, I mean, they got small solar panel things now, but you know, they're really expensive because, you know, not many people are looking for them or buying them, so it's not like it's in the mainstream yet, but one day it will be. And so that's kind of what I'm waiting on, is that maybe someday they'll, you know, we'll have that, and that would be nice. But in the meantime, we just have to muscle through it when we have these outages, and that's what we do. So this past week, because right now today's Sunday here as I'm recording this, the past week, you know, we've seen some interesting political things happening. One of the things is Mitt Romney saying he's retiring, and I think that's partly because, you know, I don't think he sees that he's got any leg to stand on in the GOP. The Republicans don't seem to like him anymore now. Or maybe I should say it's the Trumplicans, because really the Republican Party doesn't really exist the way I remember it, okay? The faces, the familiar faces and all that seem to be powerless inside the Republican, whatever they, you know, call it, inside that political structure. And what's taken over that are the Boeberts, the Greens, and you know, the friggin' jackals, I call them, you know, of the right wing. They're the ones that have seemed to have taken over that party, and now it's that. And so Mitt Romney is basically, you know, being shunned in the Republican Party. And I don't think he sees any chance at all that his career as a politician is going to get any better with people like that in the party. So I figured, you know what, he's 75, 76 years old, so why not call it quits, okay? Get the hell out of there. You know, it's not like he was ever that good of a, you know, a candidate for anything anyway. He was a vulture capitalist before he became a politician, okay? That's what he did. I think the one quote that's going to outlast him is going to be that corporations are people, my friend. That's the only legacy he's going to have after all the years that he's been in politics, is that. So obviously he wasn't that great of a politician anyway, so it's not going to be much of a loss to the Trumplicans as it is, okay? He should have resigned a long time back, but he didn't, and you know, now I think he's just thinking inwardly about family and spending what remaining years he has left in a more positive way than trying to fight these unending battles with lunatics inside the party that are quickly taking it over from the inside out, thanks to Donald Trump. I can't imagine that many Republicans, the older Republicans, think of Donald Trump in a positive light. I suppose if you get them behind the cameras and ask them flat out, you know, what do you think of him? You know, they're not going to have very many nice things to say about the man. A lot of them, I mean, Mitt Romney supported Trump when he was running for president, and now he's like shitting all over him every chance he gets. So, you know, this is a guy that played the game the way that Republicans play it, but he hitched his wagon on the wrong horse, and and it's you know, the only way he could get out from under being taken down with him is to get out away from him and just basically side against him, okay? Which didn't do him any good there either, because now with the Republican Party mostly dominated by Trumplican supporters, you know, they're gonna protest Romney whenever they see him, you know. And certainly when Romney went after Santos here, you know, for all the lies he's been saying, that didn't win him any brownie points either, because, hey, the Trumplicans like Rick Santos. You know, they don't care. You know, this is the kind of people they want running their party, you know. And I think, you know, if anything else that's said about the Republican Party you don't believe, the one thing you cannot deny, even as a Republican, is that you guys in that party have some real wacky people in there right now as representing you. Is that the way you really wanted your government? I mean, you've been saying for years, government doesn't do anything good for anybody. Well, you certainly have made that really apparent in your own party by picking these idiots who are definitely not in there for you, okay? They're trying to be in there for themselves, Donald Trump wasn't in there for you, okay? What the hell? Why do you think he's being charged with here? These are all crimes that he did for himself, okay? Didn't have a damn thing to do with bettering your life, okay? He was putting the screws to the country, destroying our national security. For what? You know? That's why I'm saying, you know, you guys, you think that these people are good for you, and you don't really look back on their history and say, you know, what the hell benefit was that going to be for us? These politicians are not in Washington. They're not supposed to be there for themselves, people. You vote for them because you want them to work for you, okay? You want them to address your problems. They're not there to address their needs or their wants and desires. That's the wrong way to look at this, and apparently that's what you Republicans want. You want politicians in Washington that only think for themselves, and they don't give a shit about you. So you guys, you know, you need to re-examine why you're supporting these friggin' clowns here, because they're really no good for nobody. Okay, so one of the things here I wanted to talk about is this article here by Matt Stoller. From Big. I don't know what that is, but anyway, it's about how people are perceiving the state of our economy right now, and the title of it's called "Strikes and Bidenomics." Today's issue is about the incoherence of the Biden economic agenda, so-called Bidenomics. Excuse me. Thank you. With strikes in the auto industry and Hollywood, as well as a sour polling numbers, something about the White House framework for our policy isn't working. First, I want to offer a brief summary of the Google trial, which seems to be going well for the government. Trials are where the rubber meets the road on antitrust, so we set up a special site, Big Tech on Trial, where we're covering the daily drama of the case. Here's the TLDR so far of the trial. The government has shown pretty clearly that the search giant is paying large sums of money to block rivals from entering the market. In addition, Google's gotten busted covering up evidence. Or as I put it, Google is following the Stringer Bell rule. In addition, in a separate Google trial, a judge tossed the search firm's dirty tricks attempt to go after the head of the antitrust division, Jonathan Cantor, as biased. It hasn't been all roses for the government. Google drew some blood, showing that consumers, when faced with the choice of Bing, do switch to Google, but the basic narrative of Google as a monopolistic liar is working. And Google's attempt to show this trial has just the government trying to help Microsoft isn't resonating. The biggest win for Google is Judge Amit Mehta blocking a public audio feed, so the public just isn't tuned in. You can't follow along by signing up at Big Tech on Trial. I've been out in Los Angeles for the last few days, and the big economic problem here are the strikes against the movie studios, which have shut down production. More broadly, as I read the news, the biggest economic stories are the high costs of living, and then the United Auto Workers going on strike against the big three car companies. The Washington Post had a good article asking workers why they are striking. Most cited inflation and fairness. Quote, "We're not making enough money," unquote, said Petron Williams, a 58-year-old Ford repairman. Quote, "People should be able to buy their own houses, but right now it's not possible," unquote. It's a hard problem to tackle because GM, Ford, and Stellantis are giant, wildly inefficient bureaucracies with high costs optimized to make $75,000 trucks, and electric vehicles are a completely different product. But Bidenomics isn't necessarily helping. In fact, Biden's White House staff just doesn't seem to have the capacity to hear what's going on or address it. Earlier this month, Biden gave a speech in Philadelphia celebrating Labor Day, and ahead of it, he said, quote, "I'm not worried about a strike," unquote, and, quote, "I don't think it's going to happen," unquote. Comments that are clearly a result of his senior staff giving him bad information. These delusional comments prompted a Detroit congresswoman to call up senior White House advisor Steve Ricchetti and scream, quote, "Are you out of your in minds, unquote. And this gets to a common question I hear in DC, which goes as follows. Why is the public so unhappy? The economy looks, by most conventional measurements, as if it's doing so well. Dave Dayen summarized the statistics as follows. Unemployment is low, inflation is down, consumer spending is rolling along, and certain manufacturing areas are booming. Quote, several measures, unquote, he wrote, quote, like economic growth and prime age employment have actually rebounded to their trends from before the 2008 financial crisis, an almost unthinkable scenario just a few years ago, unquote. According to consistent polling, the public thinks inflation is high and getting worse, and that Biden has done very little to address any of their problems. What explains how the White House is floundering? One problem is plenty of people in the political class believe that the public is simply wrong to be angry. Paul Krugman, for instance, wrote a column saying that normal people believe the economy is bad, even if it isn't. I see White House officials interviewed on CNBC periodically, and while they don't say that outright, it's clear they think the economy is doing well and inflation is down, and their job is to settle their accomplishments. There are two reasons why the White House simply cannot seem to govern effectively. The first is that the tools the political class uses to understand inflation are misleading. The second is that Biden doesn't have one unified policy agenda, but has a bunch of policy agendas that work against each other. The result of these two factors is that Biden's story, look at all this prosperity I have delivered, doesn't work in the face of strikes and anger. Sticker price versus reality. Let's start with why the White House doesn't see a problem with that. It's true that that key members of Biden's senior staff are mismanaging the situation, but that doesn't explain why Krugman, as well as many economists in the administration, don't see one either. Sure, you can look at individual strikes, but those are noisy events, not economy-wide. How does the government perceive the experience of ordinary people in the economy? There's a mess of information out there. What information matters and what doesn't. The president can't ask 100 million Americans how they're doing before making a decision. Over the last 100 years, bureaucrats have answered these questions by inventing a host of measurements to serve as proxy for what normal people experience. The government has been measuring prices using some variant of the Consumer Price Index since 1913. When there's a change to inflation, what that usually means is that the CPI is going up or down. And a change to inflation isn't a change in absolute price levels. If inflation is, say, down, it doesn't mean prices are down, only that the rate prices are increasing is less rapid than it was before. Since 2021, prices have spiked fairly dramatically, with a CPI reaching up to 9% at certain points in 2022, before settling back to 3.7% last month. Once again, that doesn't mean prices are down, just that the rate of increase is down. The crazy expensive $14 sandwich is still a crazy expensive $14. It's just not going up to $17. One of the bigger contributors to the CPI last month was housing, which jumped by 7.3% over the past year. But does the CPI really show how people experience price increases? After all, one of the most significant changes in what we pay is higher interest rates, which the Federal Reserve has hiked dramatically over the past few years. The Fed's actions have increased credit card rates, mortgage rates, auto financing, and corporate and government borrowing costs. Surprisingly, none of this is directly included in our inflation metrics. Quote, the CPI's scope, unquote, writes the Bureau of Labor Statistics, quote, excludes changes in interest rates or interest costs, unquote. The period of money, which is an input into everything, isn't included in how we see inflation today, which is crazy. When I was in the archives learning about Congressman Wright Patman, the chair of the House Banking Committee in the 1960s and 70s, I found that back then people included the cost of interest rates in how they understood inflation. The 1960 Democratic Party and platform discussed inflation in precisely this manner, saying that high interest rates enacted a, quote, costly toll from every American who has financed a home, an automobile, a refrigerator, or a television set, unquote, and was, quote, itself a factor in inflation, unquote. This logic made sense. When you borrow to buy a car or a house, the cost of that car or house is your monthly payment, not the sticker price. But in the 1980s, the government changed its method of measuring inflation, so today the CPI works under different assumptions. So what does this change mean? Well, the two biggest purchases for an American family are a car and a house, and in both of these categories, the CPI excludes the key factor for normal people, which is how interest rates affect the monthly payment. The sticker price for a car is an important number, but it's the monthly payment that matters. With that in mind, let's take a look at the price of cars over the last 10 years. And I got a graph here. I don't know if this is going to be able to show up here on the camera, but let's see if we can do it. Let's try. And nope. Well, it's a graph, okay? And it shows from, let me see if I blow that up. Okay, it goes from 2014 to this year. And, okay, I'm going to try. Okay, it spikes quite a bit. Okay, right here, this part is 2020, and the graph is really low. After 2021, it just right to the top of the chart. Okay, super high, and that's where it's at right now. And that's the consumer price index for all urban consumers. That's the graph that is shown here. And you can find this graph at the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. That's where you'll find it. Okay, let's go back to the story here. Okay, new car prices spiked from the beginning of 2021 to the end of 2022, but price levels are starting to come down ever so gently. But is the monthly payment coming down? No. According to Edmunds, in second quarter of 2022, the average monthly payment for a car was $678 in the second quarter of 2023. It was $733, so it's a slight price decline for the CPI due to new vehicle pricing, but an 8% inflation for what people actually pay. Why are monthly payments going up if sticker prices are going down? It's simple. The price of money has gone up. The average interest rate for a new car jumped to 6.63% in the second quarter of this year. It was 4.60% in the second quarter of 2022 and 4.17% in the second quarter of 2021. And housing, here's a chart from the daily shot of the monthly mortgage payment for a medium home price. Let's see. You can barely see that. You know, it's just crazy how these damn things don't work like that. Yeah. Whoa, 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 whoa. Here we go. Got really close there. Oh, closer, closer. Okay. This is the past. That's the future. That's today. Okay. Let's see. Redfin reports the typical mortgage payment is up 20% from a year ago. And while most homeowners have mortgages they got prior to 2021, and so aren't paying the higher prices, the exceptionally high currently monthly payment means people can no longer move, and they have to watch their children struggle to find a place to live. Housing prices are social, since the home is so central to the American order. So even if you are financially unaffected, seeing a lot of people unable to move, buy a home, or rent affordably gives everyone a sense of economic insecurity. That's why striking auto workers mention the price of housing. The calculation for housing in the CPI is a bit more complicated than that for new cars, but the key price to understand is that in 1983, the Reagan administration chose to exclude interest costs, instead asking homeowners what they think they would be paying in rent if they didn't own the home they lived in. The government simply, quote, underestimates changes in housing costs, unquote, according to an economist at Redfin, especially when interest rates are spiking. Quote, and that's because housing costs for the person who was actually active in the market experiences much greater fluctuation, unquote. The reason to change this measurement was so that inflation would look lower than it actually was. Over time, subsequent administrations sustained this shift, lying about the symbols used to govern as a short-term political benefit, and that it perhaps gets you some good media coverage, but over time it meant that the CPI for housing cost isn't necessarily reliable. So basically, the price of money is a big deal in terms of our experience paying for things, and it's being excluded from the inflation metric that policymakers used to look at the economy. So that's why policymakers are confused. Some of their key tools aren't reflecting reality, and the people who originally broke the tools for political purposes aren't there anymore. Today's political class doesn't even know what they don't know. Of course, housing and cars aren't the only things people buy. Food is much more expensive than it was just a few years ago, as are everything from hotels to airfares to consumer packaged goods to seeds. I mean, Visa and MasterCard, who are barely affected by inflation, are jacking up their swipe fees to merchants. None of that is a secret. The CPI on food shows that inflation might be coming down, but prices are still high. So what is Joe Biden and the Democrats in Congress doing about that? Well, White House officials call their plan Bidenomics. The best way to explain Bidenomics is to listen to a judge Biden recently appointed to the D.C. District Court, Anna Reyes, who was hostile to the Antitrust Division when they brought a case against two smart lock masters. Last month, Reyes sat on an American Bar Association panel where she attacked the idea of stronger antitrust enforcement, focusing specifically on her skepticism around labor-related claims. She bragged to the audience of defense attorneys that during the antitrust case she heard, she pranked government lawyers by spending 3 minutes pretending to dismiss their key witness before saying April Fools. Quote, "I have never in my life heard stunned silence," unquote, she later said gleefully. Having a corporate lawyer bully turned judge appointed by Biden killing an antitrust suit brought by Biden officials is a great example of Bidenomics, because it shows the lack of coherence of this administration's policy. I'm a big fan of Federal Trade Commission Chair Lina Khan, but another Biden judge, Jacqueline Corley, let through the largest big tech merger of all time when Microsoft bought Activision after Khan challenged the deal. These judges matter in terms of inflation. Had Biden picked actual populists for the judiciary instead of Corley and Reyes, the White House's ability to govern would look very different, and corporate America would be changing their pricing behavior due to the fear of crackdowns. In early 2022, there was a flurry of interest in using antitrust to attack how corporations were informally colluding to raise prices. But an aggressive legal theory needs judges willing to take market power seriously. Biden instead chose people who thwart his own administration. It's not just judges, factions in the administration. In this case, the White House Council of Economic Advisors explicitly oppose the corporate profit inflation link. I think a lot about antitrust, but the incoherence is systematic across most policy areas and Democrats in Congress. The pro-labor administration indicated support for the strikes in Hollywood against powerful studios. Then a few months later, their former White House Domestic Policy Council head, Susan Rice, rejoined the board of Netflix. For every attempt to make electric vehicles in America, there's Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen pushing hard to ensure these cars are made abroad. Normally, policy disagreements would be decided by the president and his staff, but Joe Biden is a procrastinator and doesn't like making choices. He's also very old. As for his staff, well, while Biden's former chief of staff, Ron Klain, was aggressive in terms of policy goals, his new chief of staff, Jeff Zients, is a relentlessly cheerful former management consultant wholly focused on process. Other important figures such as Tim Wu and Brian Deese have also left. With Klain gone, there's an insular clubbiness at the top and an inability to provide a vision or pay attention to policy implementation. If you were to make the point that housing prices need attention, there's just no one there who would do anything about it. And that brings us back to the strikes. The Biden administration should have headed off the UAW labor action with discrete steps to help the workers But the White House just doesn't have any coherence. And so while Biden is saying pro-labor things and agreeing with the CEOs are paid too much, there's this. There is also a sense among some Democrats and labor officials that Biden's team miscalculated the standoff and hasn't understood the severity of labor's frustrational concerns. Even the news this week that the Biden administration was considering providing aid to auto suppliers rankled some of the union world who thought it could undermine the strike and saw it as evidence that there are always funds available for companies but not workers. This isn't to say there aren't significant achievements. Biden's industrial policy push is real, with increases in investment in semiconductor production, electric vehicles, and batteries, as well as new factories in general. His competition policy approach is also real, with new merger guidelines, as well as crackdowns in pharmaceutical mergers, the prohibition of non-competes, and the Google suit. There are routinely good decisions coming out of some of the regulators. The other day, for instance, the Department of Labor proposed a rule opening up 4 million more workers to overtime pay. Meanwhile, the Securities Exchange Commission begins a crackdown on private equity. Unlike the Obama administration, which was ideologically oriented to push wealth and power upward, the Biden administration has a few populists trying to do the opposite. But in an inflammatory environment, where the stats are juiced to mislead policymakers, that's not good enough. What happened to Biden's State of the Union? In February, Biden gave a State of the Union speech focused on making things in the U.S., going after junk fees and taking on corporate power. His polling temporarily spiked. Since then, there has been no messaging follow-up from the White House on anything he said in that speech, almost as if Zients and the rest of the White House were embarrassed that Biden put forward a populist set of arguments. Instead, various officials are out there on TV saying, look at these charts. They want credit for inflation being down, economic growth being up, and unemployment being low, but without recognizing that the actual costs of housing and transportation are increasingly unaffordable and going up. That just looks weird. Moreover, there's no actual policy regime, just as disjointed set of factions trying to get as much done as possible according to their preferred view. It's mostly unclear how Biden is actually affecting people's lives, and the one genuinely organized group of workers are showing that things aren't okay. The economy isn't great, and there's no point in trying to pretend that it is. That said, Biden can save his administration. He has accomplishments, and his State of the Union messaging resonated. He can argue that his first term was about having America recover from COVID by reshoring factories, restoring full employment, and fixing supply chain problems. He can brag about all the big companies suing him, like various pharmaceutical firms mad that the White House is imposing price caps. Then he can pledge that he'll focus on bringing down housing costs in his second term. Will such a story work? I don't know. Maybe the current pitch will work. In the 2022 midterms, Biden outperformed expectations, but it's at least more relatable than eat some charts. And that's it. Let's go to a commercial break. We'll be right back.
This is me.
This is me.
I'm Alex Curtis, I'm a lobsterman in Maine, and this is me.
I'm Ruth McLaughlin, and this is me.
I'm Eric Hopkins, I'm an artist, and this is me.
This is me.
Me.
This is me.
This is me.
This is me.
At the end of the journey, the main thing is you. Original.
Today, an indictment was unsealed.
It's here. Now that's what I call conspiracy. Volume 3. 78 of the hottest indictment charges from your favorite superstar president. And still technically not a criminal. Like conspiracy to violate civil rights, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an official proceeding, and conspiracy to defraud the U.S. government.
We're gonna walk down to the Capitol.
Collaborations with hot new artists like Co-Conspirator 1.
Let's have trial by combat.
And we'll throw in his bonus lyrics booklet just released. Now, Volume 3 has the best of today's court docket topping hits and all the charges from the classified documents case, including obstructing justice, making false statements, and of course, retaining classified information.
Isn't it amazing? I have a big pile of papers, except it is like highly confidential, secret. This is secret information. These are the papers. See, as president, I could have been less. Now I can't, but this is
Now we have a problem.
Isn't that interesting? Yeah. It's so cool.
Dozens of incriminating and for some insane reason recorded tracks, such as 34 felony counts of falsifying business records and a hush money scheme.
When it comes time for the financing, which will be... Listen, what financing? You won't have to pay yourself. No, I got... No.
Order now and get all these hits. Or order in a few weeks and we can squeeze in a couple more from an upcoming indictment in Georgia.
I just want to find 11,780 votes.
Now, that's what I call Conspiracy, Volume 3. What's that? Volume 4? What? Oh, Volume 4. Guys, how many of these are there? Why don't I just record all the numbers, because this keeps happening. Save us some time.
part of the entertainment value of a lifetime.
I loved it.
It was the best performance I've seen in a lifetime.
I loved the show. I liked it very much. He's a very entertaining man. It's well worth the money.
Now appearing in Charlottetown, coming to Halifax November 6th to the 18th, and St. John November 20th through the 26th.
So, you know, in response to what that article I just read, the White House has put out sort of a statement here, which was picked up by the Big Picture. Okay. And okay, so this article here, written by the Big Picture, says, "We've talked about the success of Bidenomics, President Biden's package of economic policies that have led to our nation's unprecedented post-COVID recovery. But now the White House is going on the offensive by defining what the alternative is, MAGAnomics. And okay, some I guess posts here, tweets or Facebook, I don't know what the hell where this is posted here, but from the president, he puts MAGAnomics gives $5.1 trillion in tax cuts skewed to wealthy people and big corporations, and cuts $700 billion from Social Security, $1 trillion from Medicare. Think about that." He also posted, under MAGAnomics, the top 0.1% of households, folks making over $4 million, would get a tax cut worth twice the average family salary. Who's going to pay for it? Republicans in Congress finally released a budget with the answer: seniors and hard-working Americans. And then, okay, we cannot afford to go back to Trump's MAGAnomics. And it looks like the message about Biden's policies may be starting to take hold for everyone worried about Trump beating Biden in a couple of oversampled polls. And here's a new national poll from a Republican pollster that shows Joe Biden with a 2-point lead. Okay, so there's that little bit right there. And then, of course, the White House put out what the word MAGAnomics means. And it's an economic plan that does three things. It cuts taxes even more for the wealthy and big corporations, cuts Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid, raises costs for families by gutting investments in the middle class. It's more extreme than anything America had ever seen before. Okay, so in a nutshell, what does all of this mean that I just read to you? What it means is there's still doubt out there amongst the Democrats that the economy is doing as good as the White House is saying. Okay, let's take for a small example this little area of the country that I'm living in. Wages aren't higher. Okay, they're still low. Inflation is still high. Prices are high. The gas is high. You don't hear much about people buying homes, but you hear a lot about people moving out of homes into apartments. So, you know, you couldn't convince me, or at least many people in this area of Maine, okay, this little slice of American pie, you're not going to be able to convince us that things are better, that the economy's improving, that, you know, we're seeing some improvement. You're not going to see that here, not on the street, not in the rural areas of America. Okay, you might see something of that in the cities, you know, or in the Rust Belt or something like that, but not in every part of the country. And that's where Biden is having the problem, is that you have people in the Democrat Party on one side trying to praise what he's doing, and the other side saying, what are you praising? I don't see it. Okay, and we still don't see it. And as much as those people are sitting there screaming about it, now they're going on strike because they can't wait for anything from the White House to happen to make their life easier. They're taking it on themselves to go and do it the hard way, which is go on strike. Okay, they're sick of waiting. They're sick of hearing that they're being told that it's raining out and getting pissed on. Okay, so they want to see improvement, and apparently they say, look, if you want something done right, you're going to have to go do it yourself. So they're taking the fight to their jobs, and they're asking them, we need more money, plain and simple. The amount of money you've been paying us is like, it's not enough anymore. You never adjusted paying your employees what it means to live in this country. I mean, you might as well give us 2 cents a week to live on, because that's just about as much good as your money's doing by what you're paying us. Okay, it doesn't pay for a fucking thing. Okay, we're cash poor all the time. We can't even buy a house. We can't even make payments on a house. We can't even get a new car. Okay, you're not giving us enough fucking money. And since you're not going, since the Biden administration isn't taking the fight directly to the companies that exist, instead he's building new ones, new factories and new places to make jobs. He's left behind a whole swath of America that's already out there and not doing a fucking thing to help matters any. And I think in the way that article I just read to is what's saying, you need to take the fight out to the areas where the work is there. Okay, not build new jobs or something like that. That's fine, but don't ever forget the people that are already working. They're the ones that need the help the most. Okay, they're the ones, and even after these new jobs open, it's only going to employ a few thousand people. Okay, that doesn't include all the other hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people in America that work every day. What are you going to do for them? How are you going to force their jobs to pay them more money? How are you going to do that? Okay, and I'm sure, people will say, well, Republicans have been standing in the way. That's true, they have been, but not as far as this issue is concerned about taking the fight directly to corporations that are already out there, like the car manufacturers and stuff like that. They haven't been doing that. Instead, he's been trying to get around that argument with Republicans and just saying, well, I'm going to start new factories in America. Okay, it's hard for the Republicans to stand against that. Okay, but if you're going after the companies that the Republicans get their donations from that are out there now, yeah, that's going to be a bigger fight, and that's a fight that I don't think he wants to take on, because I don't think he can win it. And the reason is that you got too many Republicans sitting in keys of power here in our government that are just only there for one reason, that's to say no, 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 no. They don't care. Okay, they don't want to see anything happen under Biden that's going to make an improvement of any measure in this country. And they've been very good at doing that with given what they have for power in government. Okay, this is an example, folks, that even if you are the minority power in this country, you still have clout. Okay, as long as you're controlling the levers of the rich people that own the companies. When you get power to your party from these individuals, it doesn't matter if you win elections or not, okay? Because what you say goes, because if they don't get what they want, these corporations can stick it to the workers any way they want. So to say that, yeah, our economy is doing better, yeah, maybe in some parts of America it is, but please don't mistake that as overall. Okay, you're not going to find that going from one end of this country to the other. You're not going to see that. Even now, you're not going to see it. Okay, and that's the problem with Bidenomics, is they have the big task of trying to convince all Democrats, no matter where they're living, that you're doing better. You're doing better. These people aren't going to fall for that. And instead of telling people that, I think Democrats should be more honest about it and say, we realize that there's still a lot left to do. Okay, we got a lot to do, and right now is not the time to remove Biden from office for just, after just 4 years. He still has a whole lot to follow up on in the next 4 years now isn't the time to get rid of him, okay? Because if you do, then in just 2 years, if you put a Republican in office, if you put Trump back in office, he can undo everything that Biden has accomplished. He can undo it all. And the effects of that are going to be felt quicker than any improvements that Biden made, okay? It's easy to crash and destroy something overnight, but to build something from nothing, from scratch, from disaster, it takes time. It takes a lot of fucking time, okay? And we have a habit in this country of always blaming the previous presidency of things that go wrong in the president that's current, okay? So if Trump wins, okay, and things go wrong, they'll simply say, well, that's Biden's economics finally coming to fruition, okay? All the things that he did while he was president, that was going to be the end result anyway. They'll turn it right on its head. Who won't believe that? Especially after I just told you what I told you about who is feeling the progress in America and who isn't. Okay, there's far more people who aren't feeling the progress that Biden economics here. Biden economics, okay? I'm sick of trying to say Bidenomics, okay? It's bullshit. Biden economics, okay? It's the same damn thing, okay? When we try to sit there and we call, you know, Reaganomics, okay? The people who aren't feeling any effect of a good economy are going to be the first ones to agree that, oh, it was Biden that destroyed the economy when the next guy got in there, okay? And it's only going to substantiate in their minds that Biden didn't do a damn thing. This is the trap the Democrats are going to have to avoid here. And that means they got to start telling the truth. Because if they go around repeating this narrative, I'm not going to say it's a lie, but I'm going to say this narrative that, oh, things are doing better, you know, just basically making broad generalizations about things, and not being honest and saying, but there's still a lot of struggle out there in many parts of America that we still have to deal with, okay? You have to put that in there so that people are not being led down the yellow brick road here, okay? They have to understand that, yes, you might do better, but you're not, okay? This person might do better, but this person won't, okay? We're only taking care of a part of America right now, but we still have so much more to take care of, okay? And we can't stop and change gears or change presidents while we're trying to fix this stuff. That's not the best way to do business. You want to keep the people in power as long as necessary, so that way they can accomplish what they're trying to accomplish here, all right? Because if you kick them out and you just give Trump 4 more years, okay, he doesn't have to make any progress in anything. All he's got to do is ride it out and just say, well, see, I told you, Biden's stuff is not working. It's, you know, even though he's cutting Biden's nuts out from under him behind his back, he'll turn around and say, it's his fault that it's happening, that this is all collapsing now, you know, and you know what I'm saying? I mean, because Trump is a liar. He'll lie his way out of this for 4 years, and people will praise him as the greatest president we ever had. Okay, that's where that reality will go if he wins, okay? And what the White House is saying is, let's not bring Trump back into this, okay? Because if you do that, then the 4 years I spent here as president, it was for nothing. We're going to go right back to the day right after COVID, you know, and it's going to be just, we're going to be walking on a very flimsy piece of ice, and it'll crack right out from under us when we least expect it. And, you know, it would be easy for the economy to crash practically overnight if Biden loses the election. It would be. Okay, because you have a lot of people out there investing in Biden's ideas, okay, and if he doesn't win another 4 years, these people will just pull out altogether because they know the next administration won't do a goddamn thing to back up their investment. Why would they? You know, they don't want Biden to look good. They want to tarnish whatever credibility he ever had as president, and that's what they'll do if Trump wins. So there's a lot riding. I know every time an election comes up, I'm out here saying, you know, this is important. the truth is all elections are important, okay? There is no one election that's more important than the other. Every fucking election is important, which means every election has to be taken serious. It's like piloting your battleship into combat. You don't want to fuck around and tell people red alert after the shots have been fired on your ship. You want to go into that sucker guns blazing, okay? And you want to take it serious. You want to follow every fucking order your commanding officer gives you when you're going into battle, because it could mean life or death. Voting is the same way. Where our country's being pushed into a fucking combat situation, and now is the time we got to do our part by voting the right people to do the job, so we can come out of this on the other side with gold watches in both our hands. Okay, otherwise we're going to be, you know, we're going to be sunk. Okay, and this is not, you know, a time where we can be trivial with our elections by voting in non-entities. What I mean by that, I mean people who are not political. Donald Trump is not political, okay? He's not political. He's an opportunist. He's a businessman, but he's not political. He has no knowledge of politics. That's why he done so poorly while he was in there for 4 years. He was more interested in screwing us over than doing his job, okay? So he wasn't political. But what you need in there is the right person for the right job, okay? And that means someone who has a basic understanding of politics and who knows what the issues are and is interested in seeing the country, not himself or herself, doing better. Okay? The country has to come before them. That's like, you know, when you join the military. Okay? Your job is to protect the civilians, even if it means your life. Okay, your job isn't to cover your own ass and try to and survive things. If you're putting your life on the line, you're supposed to be out there putting your life on the line to protect them. That's the job you swore to uphold. And when the president takes a job and swears on a stack of Bibles a mile high that he's going to do his job to better this country, then that means he's got to put his nuts in the ringer for you. Okay, and so far we haven't been getting too many presidents who have been willing to go that far. Okay, especially with Trump. Trump has been there all along, putting our nuts in the ringer for his benefit, and he's still doing it. And the people that support him are the ones giving him his nuts. you know, they're giving them their nuts. He's taking it. He uses a mugshot to put on shirts so we can sell and make money off of that. What kind of a nut does something like that? I mean, not, you know, that's something like you'd see on Jerry Springer. You know, oh, my boyfriend went and had a mugshot done at the police station. He got arrested for drugs, and then now he's making T-shirts with his face on it to sell. You know, the audience would be laughing their ass off at that. Okay, but right now everybody think that's a good idea because Trump's the one doing it. Okay, you know, boy, I'll tell you, Jerry Springer today would be a whole different thing if the show was still on now. I mean, because obviously, you know, what was stupid then is sane today. Okay, what was a circus clown back then is now a statesman today. That's where we are. We've really done a 180 on ourselves here and gone right back to hell, you know, in a bad way. And how we can undo that is a total fucking mystery. Okay, we can analyze, you know, Monday morning quarterback till the cows come home about how we got there, but how we get out from there is something that we haven't really even thought about. How are we going to do that? How are we going to get rid of the mass nuts in this country who think that people like Donald Trump are the best thing to run our country? How do we change that? You know, can we change that? Can we actually you know, rehabilitate these folks into understanding that, you know, for all this time you guys have been played the fool by a man who is nothing more than a TV performer. Okay, he couldn't even run his own personal businesses successfully. He went bankrupt 6 fucking times. Okay, and because he's wealthy to begin with, the bankruptcies didn't matter. He always had money to invest in other things. You know, so this is a guy who made failure look like a success because he had the money to begin with to carry his ass through many different bankruptcies. Okay, so you know, like I said, he's a bad example of an American. In fact, he don't even want to be labeled as an American. You know, his friends are the Russians and the Chinese. You know, he loves them. He'd do business with them. He won't do business with any of you except to steal your money, what little of it you have. He doesn't care. You know, he doesn't care how much or what little money you have. If you're going to give it to him, he'll take it and you won't even feel bad about it, you know. But as far as the economy goes, yeah, depending on how you look at it, it's like those fuchsia cars, you know, the paint jobs on the, you know, if you look at it one way it looks purple, and if you look at it a different way it looks blue. Okay, well, that's what the economy is right now. It's a fuchsia. Okay, depending on how you want to look at it, you can say it's improving, or you can say we got a long way to go and before it's improved. You know, that's the way it is right now. So it's frustrating when you hear the White House so positive that the economy's doing well, and at the same time you look in your own backyard and you still see the same faces struggling that you saw when Trump was president. Okay, and you ask them, are you doing better? The answer is going to be no. I'm not. You know, I'm sick and tired of paying $4 a gallon here for gas. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of paying more money for a box of grapes than it's worth. You know, they're saying buy local. Well, that's not an answer. Buying local doesn't help because they're going to have to raise their prices in order to pay for the bills that they got. So buying local is only going to get you so far before their prices have to go up. So buying local doesn't change the game. In fact, I wouldn't buy local so much because they're not checked out, you know, by, you know, the USDA, okay, for whether or not their food is healthy or you know, make sure that it's safe. Okay, they don't do that. So, you know, it's just, there's a lot there. There's a lot to consider that they don't take into consideration, which you know, if we're having this trouble right now trying to determine what a good economy is supposed to look like, how the hell can you possibly get an accurate poll of an approval or disapproval of a president or someone who is running to be president? If we're having all this doubt or this conflict about what Biden is saying about the economy, then you can't trust polling saying, oh, Biden's ahead, or oh, Trump is ahead. You know, how can you be sure of that? Here we're trying to figure out how well the economy is doing, and everyone's got different perspectives on it depending on how you look at it. Same thing with polling data when it comes to who's polling ahead of who in the race for the White House. How can you possibly look at it and say for 100% certainty when it's already been proven in the past how these polls have failed us at election time? People were saying that Donald Trump was going to win his second term. They were certain. The press was all sure of it, even though I knew goddamn well it wasn't going to happen. They were telling everyone he's going to win. He's going to win. No, they were all shocked when he didn't win. Okay, they were all shocked. They couldn't believe it. Okay, and the numbers proved it. I mean, why do you think Trump was out there trying to sell the idea that the election was stolen? Because he already had the shock of the press behind him trying to say, how could this happen? Well, he's given them an answer, a lie, but an answer. And he knows he was trying to get mileage out of that, okay? So look, like I said, when polling data comes out, okay, and it looks close, you know, by just a few points, throw that poll rate out in the trash, okay? Because that's not going to give you an answer for nothing, okay? Because they're only polling a few, if 1,000 people, they're only polling a handful of people out of a certain slice of America. They could poll this part of America and say the economy's not doing well. They could poll someplace in the Rust Belt and say, oh, things are improving here. Do you see what polling data is? It's just a snapshot of a certain part of America, a small part of America. That's all it is. Doesn't mean that that's representing the entire country. It just represents that small little sliver of America that they took a snapshot of. That's all it means, okay? So wherever they're getting their data, okay, it's relevant for that area, okay? But did you call me up? Did you call them up? Did you call the entire country up? Did you do a massive poll of all the millions of Americans? I didn't get no questionnaire. I didn't get no phone call. Nobody asked me, in my opinion. So the poll is bullshit. Okay? But as far as like I said, as far as the economy goes, it's doing well for some, it's not doing at all for anyone else, okay? And that's the part that, you know, that this article was trying to tell people, and why the White House kind of felt pissed off about it and tried to say, well, if you want to go back to Donald Trump, this is what's going to happen, okay? Well, we already know that. They've been saying that since day one, okay? And Trump himself has not hid the fact that he's going to stick it to the middle class, or what's left of it, when he becomes president, okay? No mystery there, okay? So we already know what'll happen. But what people are getting pissed about is that they feel they're being ignored, okay? They think that they're lying, that the economy being good is doing good is a lie, because we're not feeling it. So if they keep saying that, eventually people are going to get tired of hearing it and saying, this administration is shit, okay? They're out of touch with reality. They don't know what they're talking about, okay? How can you expect them to think otherwise? They're gonna have to come out and be fucking truthful about it and say, look, economy's doing good for this part of America. We still got a long way to go for that part. All right, so that's it for today, and I hope everybody has a great work week, and please subscribe and comment. COVID is spiking in some parts of America pretty much enough to get people to want to wear a mask again. Check things out. You know, maybe it's because we're coming into the season here where, you know, the flu and all that shit likes to, so you know what I'm saying, when viruses start to come out of the damn woodwork. All right, so keep your eyes and ears open to that. Don't get caught with your pants down, and you know, treat each other nice out there, okay? It's we're getting close to Halloween, so that's going to be fun for those of us who can make something out of it, and you know, spend time with your kids. Okay, make memories, good ones, that they'll remember, you know. So do what you can, okay? And like I said, be nice to people, be helpful to people. Go out of your way for some people, even if you don't want to. Sometimes they'll remember that, and then they'll want to do the same for somebody else, you know. It's just like when they say pay it back. That's what happens. You do something good for somebody, they want to pay it back to somebody else. So try that. And I'll talk to you again another time. Take care, everybody.